Recognized as the oldest town in Texas, Nacogdoches lives up to its pioneer roots. The general store is almost as it was in the days of the cowboy, and the old land office hasn't changed much either. Just on the edge of town sits another Nacogdoches landmark, the home of Whitetail Country pro James Kroll, a Texas buck hunter who took the study of whitetail deer to a scientific level. As a professor of wildlife biology, Dr. Kroll is known as one of the founding fathers to modern whitetail deer management.
Come on in, I want to show you my place. Well, this is where I like to come home to, and I don't get to do it enough, but when I do, I like to come and talk to what I call the board members here, because I like to sit down in that chair right over there, and I'll catch myself just looking at one of these guys, and then I'll be reliving that hunt. This buck over here is the first Boone and Crockett buck I ever shot, and I was just a kid at that time, and shot that deer. He was sneaking across a sheep pasture among the sheep, and I had figured him out. Of course, I didn't know what Boone and Crockett was and didn't care, and just knew it was a good deer.
Where I grew up, there weren't any deer, and so I hunted primarily small game. So I pretty much had to learn hunting on my own until high school, when my high school biology teacher, Mr. Victor Rippey, took me on my first deer hunt. I think everybody I've talked to that's a deer hunter remembers everything about the first day, the first hunt that they ever had.
This is my home office. This is where I come to get away from the phone so I can write my articles, and I write lots of articles every year. But it's a good quiet place for me to write. By the way, don't pay attention to the guy with the motorcycle there. He just looks like me.
I was brought to Stephen F. Austin State University in 1973 to start the wildlife program here in the College of Forestry. And you have to understand, at that point in time, it was a different world than today. We knew absolutely nothing about whitetail deer. There are terms that we use commonly now, like food plots and sanctuaries and travel corridors and equipment like infrared trigger cameras. It was non-existent in those days.
Nicknamed Dr. Deer by Texas writer Ray Sasser, James Kroll lives up to his title by studying deer year-round and by using satellite imagery to track and monitor deer habitats, a study project that grew to involve NASA and the space program during the Challenger space shuttle tragedy.
The Columbia Center is what we say the house that deer built, because we started with deer research and all of our work with deer and mapping and that sort of thing, and then we ended up figuring prominently in the recovery of the spaceship Columbia. And because of our work there, it's mapping support to the response and to the shuttle disaster, Congress appropriated funds for us to be the nation's first regional geospatial service center. Now, what we do on a day-to-day basis is we accumulate data and imagery related to natural resources and regional economic development. But when an emergency crops up, like a hurricane or a man-made event, then we go into action to support the recovery or response effort.
James Kroll talks science and gives some deer hunting tips when Whitetail Country continues. You're watching Real Trees Whitetail Country, Dr. Deer Special Edition, exclusively on ESPN Outdoors.
And that's the best way to cook a steak in Texas.
Wildlife biologist and Whitetail Country pro Dr. James Kroll has studied deer his entire adult life. Heading up deer research at Stephen F. Austin University in Nacogdoches, Texas, Dr. Kroll would be classified as a deer scientist. Yet, his deep hunting roots have allowed him to interpret his studies in a direction to help the hunter. Every fact about deer habits, traits, and biology can be used by hunters to better understand tactics and strategies that spell success in the whitetail woods.
You know, I've been writing about patterning whitetails for many years, and it's just now beginning to catch on in the hunting community. What I'm doing is using GPS technology. I'm mapping out the rubs made last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago on this property. If you do that, or just use a map and make marks on it, I'll guarantee you that come next season, those deer are going to be traveling these same travel corridors, and they'll do it year after year after year, using technology to benefit your deer hunting. This looks like a great spot. We've got an edge here, we've got a long food plot, we've got a trail back here where the bucks are coming into this food plot. We've got a great tree over there to hang our stand on. It's just a perfect spot, right? Wrong. Our studies have shown that bucks come up to the food plot just before dark, stage, then move out on the food plot. What you need to be doing is 50, 100 yards back further down the trail, down the rub line, you can hang your stand so you can intercept those bucks coming up to stage before it gets dark. If you do that, I promise you, you'll harvest more big bucks.
Featured on the hit television show North American Whitetail, Dr. Kroll relates scientific deer facts as they pertain to hunting with pals and fellow whitetail country pros Gordon Whittington and Stan Potts. The Stephen F. Austin University Whitetail Research Center is a 210-acre habitat devoted to whitetail deer study. Interested in all aspects of whitetail deer, Kroll and his team of biologists research whitetail nutrition, antler growth, breeding habits, and other biological deer factors.
One of the things that we've really been focused on the last few years is antler genetics. What makes big antlers? We pioneered artificial insemination in whitetail deer for that very purpose. Believe it or not, this is a yearling buck. This is his first set of antlers. Wild and crazy, but one of the things that we learned is that the next year these antlers could be completely normal. Another thing that we're looking at is drop tines and what causes drop tines. And what we've learned, surprisingly enough, is that when it comes to genetics and antlers, the doe, the mother, contributes at least 60% of the antler size.
Success and recognition in the field of whitetail research comes easy for Dr. James Kroll. But to hear him talk of his early years as a biologist, it's his hunting skills and success that gave him confidence in his chosen field and the opportunity to manage whitetails on huge timberlands and Texas ranch operations.
Well, 30 years ago, on December 16, 1987, I harvested the Boggy Slough monster right in this very spot. I had called him out of his sanctuary. I had known this buck for many years, and he had become a myth in Boggy Slough, and that's how he got the name Boggy Slough Monster. I decided to go in and do something brand new to harvest this buck, and that was to use a grunt call. Now, I've been working with vocalizations with deer for many years, and I asked Eli Haydale to make me a special grunt call, and which I still have to this day. I set up in here about 9 o'clock in the morning. I started my grunt. I had the wind in my face. I grunted the third time. He came roaring down this trail right here. Interesting enough, it's still being used by deer. He came down this trail, slammed to a halt at 9 yards, his ears laid back, his hair up. He was ready for a fight.
Marty! All right! Daddy!
Dr. Deer patterns a monster Oklahoma buck when Whitetail Country continues. Using maps and information from the landowner, Dr. James Kroll has scouted his way through the cedar-choked CRP fields of this Oklahoma river bottom. Identifying fresh rubs, bedding thicket, and the primary food source, James has set up a tripod along a trail leading from the green river bottom fields to the thickest bedding cover.
Oklahoma created more challenges than I was used to. We're talking about early muzzleloader season. We're talking about hot temperatures. We're talking about 35 to 40 mile an hour winds. We're talking about deer that aren't in the rut. Every challenge that I could possibly think of was there.
What we've got here is a classic travel corridor leading to a bedding area. This is CRP land. Up to my right here, a lot of switchgrass and grown-up cedar and that sort of thing. And the deer are going up in there and bedding down during the day. And then at night, the bucks are coming back through here and following these drainages over behind me. And going to their staging areas. Wind's right, it's in our face, we'll intercept them coming through here.
You know, we all can have a major impact on the lives of young people, especially in regard to deer hunting. You know, my first encounter with deer hunting was thankfully through a biology teacher, Mr. Victor Rippey. I'll never forget that man. He took me under his wing, took me deer hunting, and gave me the first great experience in my life.
You got him? Huh? Got him. Got him. Oh, that was classic, wasn't it? He came out of the staging area right down the travel corridor.
With a kicker. Oh man, what a great deer. What a great deer. Look at this boy. Talk about character. Look at that. Look here, he just broke that off. He just broke that off. Is that not a wonderful deer or what? Hello, big boy. And he is definitely, as I said when I saw him, he's a 5-year-old buck. What a beauty.
We didn't want you guys thinking we didn't know.
Yeah.
You do know what to do. Well,
With a passion for excellence, Dr. James Kroll is a man who has devoted his life to the research of whitetail deer. A true scientist in every sense of the word, James Kroll accepts nothing at face value. He's a man obsessed with whitetail facts, a man who may know more about deer than all others, a man who loves whitetails, yet still hunts them, giving him a unique respect for deer that few could ever understand. James Kroll is Dr. Deer, a teacher in the university classroom. Yet, like all hunters, he's a student in the woods of whitetail country.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more whitetail hunting tips from the pros, log on to ESPNOutdoors.com.
That's an onion.